My Roommate is a Vampire by Dennis the Menace. Read by Deathlight. Chapter 5. No Use Crying Over Spilled Blood.
And just where do you think you're going?
Vinyl snapped, putting her roof on my chest. No, not Vinyl Scratch. She, or it, or whatever it is, something else has taken over, something animalistic, something feral. Ice followed, afraid to speak, squirming. I yelped as I was grabbed by magic, her horn aglow, hurling me towards the soft bed. I bounced once and sat back up, watching the vampire, trying to hide myself with my hooves.
If I can't see her, she can't see me. If I can't see her, she can't see me.
A quick peek revealed otherwise. I barely managed to elicit a squeak, my heart skipping a beat as she appeared by my side.
You shouldn't have gotten involved,
she snarled. I quivered, sniffing, hypnotized by her crimson eyes and her fangs jutting from her jaw like canines, sharp and pointy. Both looked equally vicious and deadly, but mesmerizing all the same. I couldn't help but stare.
Quit your sniveling, Octi. I haven't even bit you yet. Yeesh.
Those very words made my blood run cold. Maybe it was a good thing. Vampires probably preferred their blood warm and sticky. Ice followed. Please, I whispered tearfully. She moved closer. I scrambled back, my rump bumping against the headboard. I was trapped, cornered, no place to run or hide. I won't tell any pony, I swear, I cried. How pathetic was I, begging for my life? But what would you say? What would you do? She grabbed me roughly, wrestled me down to my back, pinning my legs down, licking her lips at her tantalizing prey. No longer did I feel her warmth as her body pressed against mine, as she leaned in, her face above mine.
You know,
she whispered in my ear, her voice a sultry coo.
None of this would have happened if you just kept your nose out of this.
You're right, Vinyl. My mind flashed back to Manhattan roughly 5 months ago. So far, I nearly got myself into a bar fight, had every cent robbed from me, and now I was aimlessly wandering around the streets of Manhattan at some ungodly hour, past my bedtime, looking for some nightclub amongst dozens of nightclubs, for that blasted unicorn with the electric blue mane, Vinyl Scratch, or better known as her stage name, DJ Pone 3. I felt a little proud of myself accomplishing so much in so little time, but now I didn't know what to think anymore. This town had more smoke and mirrors than the great and powerful Trixie's magic show. It was a seedy establishment, wore-down brick building with even seedier ponies hanging around outside. This is the same nightclub I had wandered into the other day, where I had met her. I was gonna need a real drink to cope with the robotic music, the robotic ponies, and the flashing lights. But what was I really doing there? Gate-crashing their little party with my scarf and bow tie? What was I looking for? Was I just in Dumb Canterlot, Philly, in a place where Dumb Canterlot ponies were less popular than authorities? When you've been living in Manhattan for less than a month, and you still can't find your way around after being fired for a disastrous Grand Gala, and you're in some lonely nightclub in the middle of some poor slum, and you still have the goal to call yourself a musician, then you are a loser. How is this my life? I struggled with no avail, as I felt my face heating up.
Just relax,
she crooned. I had one last shot of this. She obviously didn't have control, right? Vinyl Scratch, I swallowed, throwing as much persuasion as I could into my words. I love you! Thinking back, I realized how shallow I sounded, throwing those words out like that. I saw her eyes dilate for a second, and for a second, her demeanor changed. Her stance loosened, and her expression had changed from predatory to perplexed. Confused? How'd it work? Had reciprocating her love changed her back? Yes, I got through to her! Vinyl! Oh, thank goodness!
Nice try,
Vinyl sneered. Horse apples.
Did you think the power of love was going to save you?
Well, yes. Drat. Well, every pony, I tried my best. Nice knowing you all. You can't say I didn't at least try and not be devoured by some bloodthirsty creature of the night. Game over, every pony.
Now just hold still.
I'm going to die. She's gonna bite me. Maybe at least I'll pass out from blood loss. I felt her teeth scrape against the soft flesh on my neck. I cringed, tensed up, feeling the fangs sink into my skin. Well, it wasn't so bad. I mean, sure, I was bleeding out. It felt like getting a shot. After she bit me, I felt her suck and lap at my wound. I let her feed in silence and clucked my tongue, staring at the ceiling. She was certainly vulnerable in this position, but it wasn't like me to grab a lamp and smack her with it. Well, this was awkward. It wasn't the most pleasant experience, I'd admit. And it wasn't quite as romantic as I hoped, preposterous as the idea sounded. Having some pony's jaws clamped around your throat isn't as fun as it seems, and I made a note to send a very angry, disapproving letter to the author of my novel, telling them how wrong they were. Still, I'd take a vampire sucking my blood rather than my blood being taken from a doctor's any day of the week. It was certainly a much more intimate experience. Was the room spinning, or was it just me? Oh my, I feel quite lightheaded. Vinyl pulled away, my blood staining her muzzle. Last chance. All my courage, putting every ounce of love I had in my kiss, pressing my lip against hers, closing my eyes, and moaning into the kiss. At this point, I was more worried about cutting my tongue rather than the taste of my own blood. When I pulled away, I saw her looking down at me, her jaw agape. Please snap out of it, please snap out of it. Octi? I expected her to tell me I was a damn good kisser, or something along those lines. Oh, Vinyl, I said woozily. You're back to normal. She spotted my bite marks and gasped. Octi! Oh, yes, I think I might have been bitten by this beautiful mare, I drawled. Would you mind grabbing me some bandages? Hold on, I'll save you, she gasped. Oh, yes, some antibiotics. I hate to get this infected. I think I'm gonna pass out now, if you excuse me. Now, as I was saying, it was a long time ago. Octi! Vinyl Scratch yanked her headphones off, hugging me tight. I pushed her off me nervously. So, what brings you to my part of town? She asked cockily. Oh, well, I stammered bashfully. I just thought I'd just say thank you for saving me the other day. Don't mention it. Hey, now that you're here, maybe we should go out dancing. Dancing? I gasped. Oh, well, you see, the thing is... But she didn't listen, and before I knew it, I was on the dance floor in the sea of ponies, unable to see my own hooves in front of my face, and dancing along with my new friend. I was an awful dancer. If I was, however, she didn't say anything, and I had to admit, it was quite nice. Not the part where I was dancing in close proximity with a bunch of sweaty ponies, just spending time with her. Time to wake up, Octavia. When I came to, I sat up, wincing at the soreness in my neck. Touching it, I felt the bandages wrapped around my throat. I heard the sound of weeping. Vinyl sat in the corner of the room, as far away from me as possible. She seemed almost docile now, harmless. I was a little dizzy, but only for a bit. I guess I hadn't lost that much blood. And in that moment, I felt something rise inside of me. I didn't know what the feeling was. Anger? I don't know how to feel. Angry, I suppose. Any pony would feel angry. Betrayed? Vinyl? I whispered. Are you alright? She turned around, her eyes bloodshot and blurry. No longer the shade of crimson, but now a beautiful magenta. No, I'm not alright, Octi. I bit my best friend. Am I a vampire now? I asked cautiously. She shook her head, sniffing. No. Oh, well then, that was just a bit disappointing. She wailed again. But now my best friend hates me. I sat up in protest. Vinyl, I don't hate you. I just lost control. She ignored my words. I just tasted the blood and thought of you and how... She sniffed. How delicious you tasted, and I was so thirsty. And now I knew why she got to the hospital. And I wasn't quite sure me tasting delicious was supposed to be a compliment, but I took it as one anyways. You know, Vinyl, I would have let you bite me sooner if you really needed a drink, I said quietly, trying to lighten the mood, grinning. I just snapped, you know. I understand. Not really, not in the slightest. I mean, your best friend was trying to kill you. Hey, I wasn't trying to kill you, per se. I'm a monster. No, you're not, Vinyl Scratch. Don't say that. I snapped. I stood up, moving over to her and lying next to her on the floor. She flinched and shrank. I'd never seen her like this. So small. She was always bigger than life in my eyes. And then I slapped her. She looked at me stunned. Ow, Octi, that kinda hurt. And then I slapped her again for good measure. Ow, I think you made your point. Vinyl sniffed, rubbing her sore cheek. And one more time, because I was still really mad at her, and it felt really, really good. Repeat after me, Vinyl Scratch. You are not a monster. She shuddered, not a monster. Good, I smiled, satisfied. I'm just an awful best friend. And with that, she buried her face in her hooves again. I wasn't getting anywhere with her. I watched as more tears began to flow again. Her magenta eyes shimmered, glassy as she blinked, drops sliding down her face. My expression softened. Come here. Vinyl made no move to slip away as I pulled her into my arms, kissing her wet cheek, stroking her mane to soothe her. She rested her head against my shoulder, her body racking with each sob. Shh, shh, now, it's all right. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm sorry. I held her close, squeezing her to remind her I was still here. Her sobs became softer and softer, and her tears stopped flowing as she drifted off. I'm sorry, she murmured. I know. I'm sorry too. As it turns out, Vinyl Scratch still slept like a log, vampire or not, and still apparently as heavy as one. I spent the next hour or two trying to drag her into my bed after changing the sheets. I was gonna have a hard time explaining that to the other attendants, but I decided to tell them that it was Vinyl's special time of the month, as was appropriate. She was like a big, bloodthirsty teddy bear, and the best part was she was all mine. I grinned, hugging her tight as I too fell asleep. Ow! I woke again, her horn was poking me in the eye. Ow, ow, ow. I didn't expect my first time sleeping with a unicorn to be so horny. When I woke, she was no longer in my arms, and I could smell smoke? 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 I shrieked. Fire? Where? Venel appeared in the doorway, grinning, still missing her glasses as I accidentally broke them. Just making breakfast. I didn't know you could burn juice. Shut up! Venel sheepishly grinned. I tried making a, hey, I'm sorry for trying to kill you breakfast in bed, but I don't think it's very good. Wait, she turned on the stove by herself? I didn't hear any sirens. It's the thought that counts, right? I smiled. How bad can it be? Funnel sighed in relief. Phew, that's good. You're gonna need a spatula to scrape the eggs off the frying pan. Oh, and we're all out of toast. I just bought an entire loaf, I yelled. Well, the toaster didn't agree. Okay, guys, this is going to be very quick. I'm going to be going off to a play recital soon. And yes, I'm in it. That's why I've been with you guys for very much, because I've been insanely busy with actual work. So goodbye, it's been fun.